Did your parents give you the time and presence you would have liked as a child, or did they give you exactly what you needed? This is Music, Spirit and Accountability with Jay Hode and Michael Cooper, episode number 12. You know, you speak sometimes about your relationship with your father and those things that he gave you that have shaped your life in such profound, uber successful, uh, conjuring, let's say, ways, through some of those things that you learned and maybe, learned, it inspired you to be this way in certain parts of your life. Can I ask you a personal question? It's not too crazy, I don't feel, but the presence, do you feel that you had the presence from your father that you would have liked?
It's the best question. It's the best question. I can answer that now differently than how I would have in the past.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if I have the time to unpack this fully, but I can say that I had the presence from my father exactly as I needed to become the man that I am today.
Mm.
And as a result of that, I have this model of what I believe and in my reality is what the masculine man should be and what that looks like, and that presence and that groundedness. And my belief is that my father had to go without that so that I could receive it. He had to forego that in his own life so that it was the ultimate sacrifice to me.
Wow, brother. Wow.
He actually gave up that divinity, which is, we talk about biblical stories and how the father or in just about any movie, Gladiator, whatever they may be, where he makes that ultimate sacrifice. And
Yeah.
I believe that's what my dad did for me. He made that ultimate sacrifice so that I could be this version of myself, which this version of myself, I love everything about it and I wouldn't change for the world. And if he had been any different in the way of presence or groundedness or divinity or any of those things, I wouldn't be this man. So I have the deepest now reverence and respect and gratitude and even a humbling for the sacrifice that he made for me.
Okay, so this is interesting in the sense that that changed by the sounds of it at some point. Your old perception of it wasn't this way. Um, you know, maybe a little bit on what the old perception was and what shifted it.
My old perception is I hated my father, and I would never speak well of him, if I spoke well of him at all. I had a philosophy that my kids would never meet my father because I didn't feel safe if I wasn't there, and that held true. My kids are 16 and 14, and they've never met him under my steam. And the belief, I saw what I needed to see to get to where I was. I saw that my father was not there. He was angry. I felt he didn't love me. I felt that I wasn't good enough. I felt that I could never match up to his benchmark of whatever that was because it was forever moving. And there were so many other kids in the world that were better than me and better children, and he would prefer them as children. And that was the story that through my experiences that I'd created. There was a level of discipline in that was applicable to me, but not necessarily everyone else. And I rationalized that and said, that's made me incredibly disciplined. It's made me incredibly powerful. I also created a strategy around that point that I need to hurt myself first and much more than anyone could possibly hurt me so that I won't be hurt.
Mm.
That was my coping mechanism. That was my protective mechanism for growing up. And that's what I created. And that's why I did so well at sport. The harder it got, the better I got. I'm like, oh, I'm good for this. This is my space. We want to go to the hurt locker. I made the hurt locker. And that's where I lived my whole life, even in business. Everything had to be hard. Everything was punishment. And it was safe for me to do that.
Mm.
And so, the old paradigm for me around my father was that he did these things to me and he was bad and he was a horrible person. And I never want to be the father that he was. That was, like you said earlier in the beginning of this chat, like I vowed to never be like him. And so, yeah, that shifted for me after my vision quest. I did there's a method which is neutralizing the charges that you have over certain things and the traits that you have, and uncovering the root cause of either the fear or the pain, and then neutralizing these charges, because at that point I'm only seeing one side of what my dad did to me.
Yeah.
And it's a holographic process where you see all the dimensions and what it creates for you, and all of these 4 vectors to 8 levels, and you have to peel back each one. And at the end of it, I had an awareness of what the magnitude of what my father did for me, which was make the ultimate sacrifice. And so that's where I say instantly, 47 years worth of work, but made a paradigm shift in my thinking, because I saw the benefits and the drawbacks equally. I realized what I gained from these strategies. I realized what he sacrificed from giving me these things.
Yeah.
And in that moment, my business changed. In that moment, my relationships changed. In that moment, I changed, because this charge that was holding on to, like, I was never going to go to my father's funeral. I was never going to go to his birthdays. I was never going to call him again. I just squared off on that after years of trying to resolve it and not working. And now I see him in a completely different light. And I'm now questioning, like, yeah, wow, I have to unravel that thought of holding on so tight that I'm not going to go to his funeral, because this man actually gave me everything that I've got right now.
Brother, that is just huge. Thank you so much for sharing, brother. I'm feeling just to bring up a few things, share a few things here. One, you just kind of summed it up so well, but we kind of just break that down to simplicity of this transformation from a victim to an extremely admirable hero. Okay, so you've got this one space. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening to this right now that this would be relating to, and some that are maybe sitting in that victim space without any, judgment. However you relate this to yourself, sitting in that victim space. And then on the other side, there would be people in that admirable hero space that have been through a similar journey, can relate, and at some point flick that switch. There's a lot of people that never choose to go on that journey, that never choose to show interest in it. So again, an invitation, if there's anyone out there that is feeling something in their heart now, to maybe begin to go to that journal. I think go down that journey. I think what you said about the funeral thing, that's huge. Like holding that, and I literally know that story from so many people being like, yeah, and you know what, I'm not even going to go to their funeral. It's like the icing on the cake, like the nail in the coffin, so to speak. So if there is anyone out there now that's listening to this and is like, well, yeah, there's something in there that doesn't feel in alignment, or you might be like, yep, I'm right, I'm fully validated now, and I'm going to sit in this space, and I'm not going to my dad's funeral, or whatever your story is, your brother, your sister, your friend, whoever. There's something with that, I'd say, negative charge. Where would you suggest, like, if you gave it a clear path, and there's no right or wrong answer here, but where do you begin? If you're in that place, and it's like, you probably wouldn't go into a vision quest, maybe straight off the bat, unless you have, like you said, it was it happened just like that. But after 47 years of work to get there, right? So this is, these stepping stones of where to begin. Like, I think, I don't know, I feel like maybe answering my own question here is, you just got to begin. You got to start. You got to start somewhere. And if there's that journey, trusting in the journey and just starting somewhere. You could even reach out to me or Mike, but I'm sure there's other people in your field that are probably right there to reach out to, or whatever you need to do to begin your journey, and trusting. I think just the shifting that thing of like, okay, something here needs to change, and there's almost always a catalyst, something that happens in life where it's like, okay, this is not working for me anymore. I need to change. I need to break free, right? Which is what we kind of started with today. How do we break free? You start. You start.
Just start. I think that's unfortunately some people could see that as oversimplifying or just obvious, but you just need to start.
Yeah.
I remember the day for me, it was I'd studied religion, I'd studied philosophy, and to intellectualize things, there wasn't a desire to understand it at a soul level. I wanted to be smarter, and so I studied those things, and it wasn't until probably 5 years ago sat there and I was sitting on the lounge. I can remember the exact fabric and fiber that I was sitting on, and it just came to me as like, but this got to be more. What am I not seeing? And that was the start of my spiritual journey with birth. But the reality of my logical sense and what I can rationalize was that moment when I asked that question. And I was sitting there in my, logical mind with my business and my suits and all the things. And I'm like, there's got to be more to it than this. And that's where it started. But I think to sort of go further onto what you said, I would find someone that you align with first. I listen to Jay, I see his podcast, he drops these things, and I keep going back to it. I wasn't aware that I was, but I'm now in my awareness. I keep going back to Jay, and there's some things that he said that really get me thinking. And that's where I would explore it first, because there's a little pull on the heart to say, there's guiding synchronicities. We think that is coincidence, but it's actually the soul speaking to you going, hey, he's over there. It's whispering. It never yells. It's a very gentle whisper. And
even another gentle thing is reading some books that resonate, like what you just said about the God, that beautiful God force energy, and studying religion. For me, Conversations with God was a book that changed my life. Like that when I read that, it's like, I get it now. I feel like I get it now. Like, you want the meaning of life? Okay, read that book. It's like, okay, there's a lot of meanings of life in that book.
Let's just take a moment to celebrate that book.
That book.
How good is that book? Like,
it's my favorite.
Oh, it is a doozy. I remember being addicted to that. I couldn't wait to go again and go again. And I'm like, of course that makes sense. It was... You haven't had the chance, Conversations with God, it comes with my highest recommendations.
100%. Yeah. Books like The Power of Now are a great stepping stone too, into this realm. But yeah, I think Conversations with God, I feel like, what I love about that text is the softness in which all the replies come, with just such an openness, such an unattached, unopinionated sharing of knowledge that's just to the core, that just beats all the bullshit and all the, I don't know, just my feeling, the possible misinterpretations of information that has been handed down from cosmic beings, or however you want to explain it, the unfathomable. It still blows me away that we boil this perception of this God to this kind of figure of a man with a beard, or whatever it might be, a Labrador, or whatever your story is. But anyway.
Hey, brother, just dropping back into you. What are your thoughts around, this old paradigm and breaking out of that? What's that fit? What comes up for you?
Yeah, I think it's, I feel like both sides of, there's kind of like two sides of the story. There's that side where, you develop maybe the anger or the triggers around some of those things, and don't get it, and create stories and judgments around those experiences of how could you be like that to me, to then maybe go and repeat a lot of those patterns yourself as you grow up, to then having that epiphany to come back and be like, oh wow, I get it. And you just come back with totally loving on the say the perpetrator, almost, for giving you those tools to excel and become that admirable warrior. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what I feel around it. But to give you like an actual 3D story of my life, there was a part in my younger days, in my childhood, early, pretty much my whole childhood up till I was about 15 or 16, and maybe a little beyond, where in my story, I feel that with so much love for my mother, because I love on her so much every single day. She had some possibly some past trauma from the relationship with my biological father. And as part of that past trauma, in her safety mechanism, put things in place to protect her child in her story. And some of those things possibly weren't maybe in the best interest of what I would have wanted as the child. I didn't know better. I was just a child. To put that into more of a 3D story, let's say, okay, so what I've learned from this is to do my very best to never teach a child that their parent is, anything negative about their parents or important people in their life to the best of my ability, so yeah, let's say if I have a child in my life, I will do my very best to not teach them negative things about their parents, and that really relates to me specifically in this time, without going into too much of the detail, but I'm literally always going well out of the way to teach the children in my life about, that how incredible their parents could possibly be, and to really invite them to keeping that open, not defending anyone, not saying too much about positive or negative, but just trying to keep that neutrality to let the child really feel into their heart, to let them decide to the best of their ability, being that they are just kids. So I don't know, that's kind of feels relevant to share.
I've actually had, just further to that, just to probably put some more context to it. I've had two partners in the past who were estranged from their father because of those similar relationship dynamics where they were withheld or told stories or sort of pushed away from them. And obviously, there's time that's passed, and sometimes it was 20 years where they actually then catch up with their father and go, those stories aren't lining up.
Yeah.
There's a gap. There's an incongruence here. And in that moment, they have new light for in this case, the father, and a different light now for the mother, who was potentially manipulating some of the stories or creating stories or telling her version of the story, which might have been a little bit one-sided. I've done that twice, so in past relationships.
Yeah, and the softness in which I came to my mother, as opposed to the story that you just shared, stories, was a real softness. Not that there was no negativity. I evolved with that beautiful spirituality journey where I was coming with a neutrality, if that's the word, coming neutral towards my mum to be like, hey, I really feel that, with everything, I truly feel in my heart that you did the best that you could, and you had my intentions to the best of your ability with all you're going through, doing your best to juggle it all. And just like you said, though, everything shifted and I connected with my biological father, and I think 37 years old for the first time, and I did it with such a peaceful energy towards my mother. And what ended up shifting, it took a little while. It was a bit like quite sensitive and pushing some things in the beginning with a gentle safety and trust that I was doing my best to bring that of, no matter what happens. I basically came at it, look, we've got two ways we can go here. We can either swipe it under the cover and pretend like it doesn't exist and have this shallow relationship, or we can put it all on the table and just be open about it all.
Yes.
And we can deepen our relationship like never before and open all those uncomfortable containers. I don't need to necessarily know the answers to anything specifically, but it's more of an energetic shift. And after a few weeks of fighting and things, but it shifted so many dynamics in the relationship with my mum, and also that thing of that healthy relationship with a mother, like these men that grow up where have you ever had your partner say to you, wow, your mum's kind of controlling, you seem to really do what your mum wants you to do, like maybe we should not worry, if that's a red flag for you or any men in your life. There's something in that possibly. But there were some of those things that were going on with me, and my beautiful partner at the time, Kalia, helped me, really brought that into the light in a really healthy, accountable way to me. I was like, oh shit, you're bloody right, and I'm doing that. So the relationship with my mother evolved so much and deepened so much, and then seeing my mum's spiritual journey over the last 6 or 7 years since when this happened has been profound, and the place that she's in now, which that catalyst of the things that have set in motion from that, of her letting go and moving forward with full power, has been just mind blowing. So and as for me too, so it's exciting.
I think there's a lot that might have been missed in that. And so obviously we're talking about mother-son relationship, but what you held there was that in the divine masculine was you provided a safe container for your mother, which is just the feminine energy,
Yeah.
doesn't have carry age, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, I want you to listen to this, is what Jay did then was he provided a safe container for it just to be a healthy, in-depth conversation. And those conversations don't destroy, they actually fortify the
Yeah.
relationship. They give you a depth and a whole new level of being. And as a result of that, it's much easier for you to have those deeper conversations now with your romantic partners
Definitely.
because you had them with the mother figure. You
Yeah.
know, it's at a higher level, and holding that divine masculine energy of like, you know what, I'm open, I'm witnessing, I'm not judging, and I'm just here for you to express your truth. And hopefully that can alleviate some of the trauma or the pain or the guilt and shame that you may be carrying that you're not aware of.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, that was so, so powerful, not only for you, but for her as well. As you said, her journey almost pivoted at that point.
Yeah. And the passiveness in which I came into that, there was no attachment to an outcome. There was no, hey, we need to talk about this. This needs to be discussed. There was no pressure. There was like, it's possible, the way I see it, there's two ways we can go here. It can be we talk about this and go deeper, or we don't and we stay shallow.
Yeah.
And I tried to take away all the condescending energy even behind what I just said, because it's said in the wrong way. That could sound quite condescending, but it was so neutral. And I didn't go in with an intention to get an outcome or an intention for her to lean into either option. I just went in like, hey, if you feel like feeling into this, take as long as you want. And if you ever want to speak about it, I'd love to. And if not, I'm totally cool with that too. And then let it simmer. And it simmered pretty boiling hot for a while there. But after 3 or 4 weeks, it simmered down, and that safety of coming back to those conversations was there. And man, did we what? And now it's still just journeys every day, and there's that comfortability to speak about it like never before. So it's beautiful, brother.
And what's 3 or 4 weeks in the space of a lifetime?
Exactly, nothing.
Drop in the pond. How's the relationship with dad now?
Great. It's awesome. Yeah, yeah. And it's benefit because I get two dads now. So I got my biological dad,
Yeah.
and I got the dad who raised me, who equally taught me, the most profound gifts that any son could ever ask for. So yeah, it's evolving. The relationship with my biological father is evolving.
That's so good.
To the point where I've probably got to take that label away soon of saying biological father, but it's kind of
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
makes it clear, because everyone's like, what's dad, which one's your dad? And but they both are. But it's to get to that point is that's a few years of evolution to speak like that, and it's starting to feel more normal to I don't think I've called him dad yet, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I can feel it coming. So yeah.
Do you think that's it's a two-part being? Is it partly for you, but it's also partly what he's bringing it, so that it's because respect is earned, right? It's not
Yeah.
given, it's earned. Trust
Yeah.
is it's earned as well. And does that come from him rising up and meeting you to a point where you go, yeah, I really feel the need to do this now?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not feeling any need to do anything. It's just quite natural. And he's been stepping up in beautiful ways, but really just safety and trust and presence and time. And I think again, presence and just showing up. You can't change the past, but you can be in the now. And so let's be here and just see what happens. And I'm cool with that. And the initial reaching out to him was a very beautiful neutral message of saying like, I'm basically Jay, I think I'm your son, and if you'd ever like to catch up and maybe have a coffee or something, I'd be open to that. I don't, to be completely honest, I don't want anything from you, and I'm not attached to any outcome coming from this contact. But I just wanted to know you'd know that I'm here, and if you'd ever like to have a conversation with me, maybe even go out for a coffee or something, I'd be open to that. And yeah, he got straight back to me and said, "That sounds great. Let's have a coffee," and that's how it started. So yeah,
Yeah, love that. That's
yeah.
beautiful, man. Very beautiful.
Epic, man. Let's wrap this up today. Thank you so much for your time, Mike. Let's continue on with this next time. Love you, brother.
Love you, brother. That was a beautiful one. Thanks, Chantel, for taking
Yeah,
us down that rabbit hole.
yeah,
Big love for that, bringing that into our space today. And yeah, thank you, brother.
yeah. And if anyone else would like to hear us speak about anything, please just drop us a message, and we'd love to dive in. It's amazing the rabbit holes we go down. So beautiful.
Absolutely.